Hello, my name is Brother George Van Grieken, and this is a short presentation about the contemporary realities that are facing higher education today. There's a book by Arthur Levine that has been very well received. It addresses the topic that directly applies to almost all universities. What happens in the U.S. tends to reverberate much further than our borders. And according to that book, quote, the United States is experiencing profound, unrelenting, and accelerating demographic, economic, and technological change. The country is undergoing a transformation from an industrial to a knowledge economy. This paradigmatic change for higher education has serious enrollment and financial implications. It has led to the closure of hundreds of colleges already, and this will likely continue into the future. Most of you are probably much more aware of all the details of this particular challenge than I am. But it's difficult to calculate the degree of influence that change in the nature and interest in higher education has when you put it together with the other factors that are affecting changes in higher education today. If we look at simply college and university closures, the number of closures over the past 18 years represents almost 15% of the 5,860 of the colleges and universities in the United States that remain in operation. What should also be put into that mix is the fact that almost 9,500 branch campuses have closed between 2003 and 2021. Notably, 80% of all these closures were for-profit institutions, while 20% were nonprofit. For the nonprofit sector, one significant concern that most of us already know is the fact that in 2025, the country will graduate its lowest high school classes by population. And that rapid decline in potential students is already impacting colleges and universities. 95% of U.S. universities rely on tuition, and therefore less students means less tuition and less income. There's one analyst who wrote that it's a reflection of, I think, an unsustainable operating platform, meaning a heavy reliance on tuition, which can't always keep up with inflation or with the erosion in enrollment. Colleges can't keep hiking tuition sticker price in the hopes that the net residual, once you account for scholarship and discounting and the like, is going to be enough to offset your growing expense base. In fact, that is the topic. The future of Lasallian universities in the face of what one writer calls the contemporary equivalent of the Industrial Revolution. And no, it's not AI, although AI is part of it. Here's a quotation from Wally Boston, a great analyst for higher education, and this quote from him sets the scene. New digital technologies have emerged with the power to recast our lives and the world around us. One consequence is that social institutions, one of which is higher education, are compelled to change to meet the demands of the new economy. The futurists' predictions fall into two buckets. The first bucket is the adaptive bucket, whose commentators believe that the existing model of higher education will be sustained through gradual adaptation. The second bucket is the disruptive bucket. Its commentators believe that higher education will have to substantially transform itself. That quotation summarizes one of the points that's made by Arthur Levine in the book that he published in September of 2021. Arthur is one of the top scholars on higher education, and he is the former president of Columbia University Teachers College. Written in collaboration with a fellow researcher, the book chronicles the past history, the present circumstances, and the uncertain future of tertiary education in the United States. While his scope does not include the rest of the world, I think that all university leaders would find the book well-researched, well-written, and kind of scary. Wally Boston wrote about this book. I can't remember how many books and essays I've read over the past 2 decades that forecasted major changes and disruption to higher education. Some were better than others, but none of them were as notable as this one. That's why it's worth our attention. I will only be able to highlight some parts of the research, but if you haven't yet, and you're involved with higher education, you should read the book. A main observation is that traditional campus-based higher education was built for the industrial economy. The increasingly attractive current world of higher education lies, quote, beyond traditional campuses, where diverse and independent for-profit and non-profit institutions and organizations have abandoned key elements of mainstream higher education. Instead, they are focusing on digital technologies, low-cost degrees, competency or outcome-based education, certifications, and more. Do you know what the largest university in the world is? Think about that. Put an answer in your head. Here's the answer. The largest university in the world is Coursera, an online university that was started in 2012 by 2 Stanford computer science professors. In 2021, it had 78 million learners enrolled. And in 2022, this had jumped to 102 million. I don't know what it is today. Udemy has 40 million learners and over 5,000 employees, plus some 60,000 instructors. Udacity currently enrolls 160,000 students in more than 190 countries and has 23,000 graduates. And the open source software platform of edX powers more than 2,400 learning sites worldwide and has 155,000 learners in 162 countries enrolled. And although MOOCs, massively open online classes, are known to have low course completion rates, they also offer low-cost upskilling certifications. These statistics are sobering and clear. You don't have to spend 4 years going to college to obtain a degree. Why would you do that if tuition alone in one of our Lasallian U.S. colleges is almost $54,000 a year? Now, I think that we have an answer for that, but potential parents will probably not see this number as an immediate value proposition. Elite colleges in the Western world are likely to survive, but non-elite colleges will be the big losers. This field is expanding very rapidly. Education is becoming a very big business if it's online. The last time that society changed more quickly than its social institutions changed was during the Industrial Revolution, which was also the last time that higher education transformed. The book shows that we are seeing the same stages of change as before. And since higher education is the engine that drives the global and digital knowledge economy, and because of its role in the new economy, higher education's transformation will occur much faster than it did in the Industrial Revolution. But it's not all bad. One of the advantages of online education is that it generates a tremendous amount of data. In fact, 90% of all the data in the world has been generated in the last 24 months. A fact that I find hard to believe. Because of all the data gathered by online learning companies, recently developed adaptive learning tools analyze students' learning and recommend areas of focus. That helps students to master difficult concepts based on their classroom activities, as well as their answers to questions and quizzes. This data allows educators to determine how students learn and what the most effective resources are to get them back on track, unquote. Therefore, such learning could become a good complement to other higher education options. The same authors write that it's not difficult to imagine a disruptive scenario, a new knowledge age university at the periphery of higher education, powered by digital technology and driven by changing consumer appetites regarding the kind of education wanted. This new university would be learner-centered and outcome-based. It would also be time-independent, individualized in programming, and offer a host of certifications and credentials. Along with that, it's important to note that the nature of accreditation of studies would shift radically. They predict that the object of accreditation will shift from the institution to the student, with something like accreditors verifying that students have achieved certain defined competencies. Where they achieve them is much less important. There's a lot more in the book, and you really should read it, but let's cut to the chase. What are their conclusions after all that study? So after this extensive study of many dimensions of higher education in the past and in the present and the likely future, they conclude that there are 5 realities that will shape the future of higher education. What are they? Here they are. First, institutional control of higher education will decrease, and the power of higher education consumers will increase. Second, with near universal access to digital devices and the internet, students will seek from higher education the same things they are getting today from the music, the movie, and the newspaper industries. Third, new content producers and distributors will enter the higher education marketplace, driving up institutional competition and consumer choice, and driving down prices. The industrial era model of higher education, which focuses on time, process, and teaching, will be eclipsed by a knowledge economy successor that's rooted in outcomes and learning. The dominance of degrees and just-in-case education will diminish. Non-degree certifications and just-in-time education will increase in status and in value. So, given those potential realities, after all that study, what are the same authors' recommendations for colleges and universities today? And they wrote them down in very nice, pithy sentences. The first recommendation is, don't plan for business as usual. It won't be business as usual. Second, recognize that higher education is in the education business, not in the campus, degree, or credit business. It's in the education business. Third, know that tomorrow will not be a repeat of yesterday. Tomorrow will not be a repeat of yesterday. Fourth, restore the connection to the street, to the consumers, to the people who are taking education or want to get an education. What is it that they're looking for? Fifth, make institutions distinctive. Give them a value added or a plus that distinguishes them from their peers. In 2021, during the worldwide pandemic, the author of the book spoke to the Association of Catholic Colleges and Universities. Like everyone else, this group of U.S. Catholic universities held its annual conference online. I'm going to play just a few minutes from the end of Arthur Levine's talk to them via Zoom, because I think it's a very good summary of what he believes Catholic universities can and should be doing as the world moves forward. Although his remarks are focused on higher education in the Northern Hemisphere, the conclusions will apply, I think, to all Lasallian universities, wherever they're located around the world. And all of us can benefit from his recommendations. Just a quick note that this video is not the most slick video production, but the content's very good.
The fact of the matter is that in the global digital knowledge economy, higher education is the generator that propels the nation. Our research, our teaching, our service are essential. The resources exist to capitalize on what's facing us, not to let it pull us down. We have to be sober about what it is we're facing, and we have to be alert and active in choosing how we want to respond to it. These could be the best times, not the easiest times, not the least daunting times, but they could be the best times for institutions and for the profession and for Catholic higher ed.
What we're also seeing, and I'm seeing in our own institution too, where we went online, as you say, with a day and a half's notice, and everyone's doing a phenomenal job of suddenly doing this online delivery. But to a person, every single one of our students is missing the culture of the campus. It's missing the interaction, even the social justice initiatives, which I don't think Google is providing through their online platform. So could you comment a little bit about that piece and how it figures into the equation?
Oh, I'm really glad you asked the question, because as I was reaching the end of the speech, I was throwing out large parts of it. And that's one of the things I threw out. A few months ago, actually before the pandemic, the trustee of a college came to me and said, their enrollment was really declining. And what he told me was, they'd been creating all kinds of new programs. Well, lots of colleges are doing that, creating all kinds of programs. And the fact of the matter is they're all creating relatively the same kinds of programs. And when there's a niche program, regional universities, community colleges are tending to recreate those programs at cheaper prices. The question is, what can institutions do? The reason this institution was in trouble was because they chose the wrong strategy. They were saying the wrong thing to the people who they wanted to recruit. They were talking about their history. People don't come to a college today because they're interested in the prior history. What are you going to do for me is really the question that matters. What do Catholic values translate into? What can you give me that other schools can't? There are a lot of Catholic colleges and universities. Why should I attend yours? And the answer to that question is, what are you doing that's special? In the years ahead, we will see disruption, but it'll go primarily to regional universities, and it'll go to community colleges, which are fundamentally the same and aren't providing the value added. Imagine a Catholic college that said what we really care about is teaching. That's what we're going to do. Matter of fact, every ad we put out says we're only going to hire people who've won teaching awards. We have a center on campus that works with every professor who comes here. Teachers from around the country come to use the center and its resources. We write about teaching. We have programs in our various departments that focus on teaching. If what we can do is pick something that's unique, something that's special, that's in line with our mission, and make that the focus of who we are, we can offer a different kind of hope and future for tomorrow.
What can make Catholic higher education distinctive such that it will address these key changes?
And again, what makes it distinctive is I really believe that Catholic colleges and universities bring a set of values that other institutions don't have. I learned that at DePaul in a way I'd never learned it before. And what I'd say is, make that explicit, make that concrete. Not in terms of abstractions, but in terms of concrete realities. Catholic colleges have been innovative and leaders since Cardinal Newman. And the simple reality is, I named 2 schools that differentiated themselves. Alverno's competency-based curriculum. It's not that Alverno doesn't have major challenges today, like all other small private colleges. It's that it's different. It's not that Xavier doesn't face the same problems. It's that Xavier is doing STEM. It's that it's preparing people for medical school, that it's doing health sciences. Those kinds of distinctions are what are going to make a difference.
What Arthur Levine highlights in that last point, the distinctive value of the institution, should be something that Catholic and Lasallian Catholic colleges pay very close attention to, because that is the treasure that gives it a value. And my point to you is that it is also the Lasallian Catholic nature of your university or college that is our unique treasure. One that needs to be well known, displayed, brought to life, and ensured through regular self-reflection. You have to dig this treasure up, take a look at it, clean it for people to relate to and use and notice. What it means to be a Lasallian tertiary institution needs to be a topic for casual conversations, for formal discussions, for faculty seminars and professional study at all levels of university life. Once that is made more clear, then it can be polished and highlighted so that it can actually be seen as a treasure by all of those who walk onto the campus. But first, we need to be convinced that for the survival and flourishing of our institutions, the intentional pursuit of its Lasallian Catholic character is both something that is a very necessary thing and something that is ultimately life-giving. If you have a conversation with someone about the book, let me suggest that you take a look at the 5 recommendations that the book makes, and then ask questions like, which one do you think your institution does well? And which one perhaps isn't even on the radar? Also, is there something that should be added to this list that the book has provided? Something that for us is missing. Whatever conversations you have, any one of them will develop your wider appreciation of the current state of higher education, especially as it might apply to your own college or your own university.